They can be done without us, so if I don't prioritize one, or the board ends up collectively not prioritizing it, it's still something that, it doesn't look like it requires staff time and or any money from us, is that correct?
I think for the most part, Tyler, maybe if we get specifics, you could clarify, but we just did this at the middle school. One of our committee members went and worked with a member of the police department and spent the whole day telling these kids all about safety on your bikes and now get off the sidewalk, you're too old, now it's against the law for you to do that. All these kinds of things, and other than the officer's time and a little bit of planning, not a big cost.
We had, and Chief's here, he can speak more if needed, but yeah, we had an officer there to be with the kids. And the intermediate school does have bikes, but they're not using them, and the only reason why is they don't have enough volunteers to help. So that's one of the things, or the goals of the committee is to help find volunteers for them to be able to actually bike around the community as part of the class and go through those safety things hands-on. Siri thinks I'm talking to her.
Girlfriend's calling again, huh?
We're at 2 minutes. Additional questions for pen and bike safety? Okay, let's move on. Thank you. Thank you. So public arts, Diane is here. Questions for public arts first. Are there any questions?
I'm just trying to understand which number it is.
Find your tab. Give you a minute.
What number is that?
I built in time for
16.
transition. 16.
I have a question. So it's the recommendation, I don't know which one it was, but the village taking on full maintenance costs. Do we already do that? Or is that something that's just being, so what do we already do and then what is being requested?
Sure.
I have a question.
Yes, I heard the question.
Okay, great.
Our all-volunteer committee has been working for the last 10 years. And the first piece of public art that was in the village was over at the library. The next was the Plenza at Atwater, and then now the Ghost Train. Those are the three main ones. However, our committee also has identified all of the other 3D and 2D in the whole community, which we have tabulated over the years. So your question is about the maintenance. And we just felt that we needed to address the maintenance because in the past what happened is when things needed to be done, for instance, the Patel was repainted, it was necessary for us to apply to the Shorewood Foundation and to get the money to do that. And I would anticipate that that's the way we would do that in the future, that as things come up, and one of the things in the visioning is that we would change the light in the Plenza because it's been a problem ever since we started. And I would also anticipate for that, we would go to the Shorewood Foundation, and we do have a little bit of money in that foundation that would help for us to go ahead and change the light so it works better. So those are the kinds of maintenance things we're talking about. On the Ghost Train, we have a guarantee until 2023, I believe it is, that they will maintain that light sculpture. So but as we move forward, I think we need to understand that all of the pieces that are in our village are going to require maintenance at some point. And it's just like your car. You have to occasionally take care of that car. You can't just drive it, and that's the way public art is too.
Was that clarified?
Somewhat, are you asking us to make the plan in this request, or is it to actually sign a document saying we're going to pay for all the maintenance?
No, I'm not asking for any paying at all. I'm asking for us. However, I will say this, it does sometimes take some staff time because we ask the DPW occasionally to make sure that things are cleaned off on the sculptures, if that is. So it does take some staff time occasionally, but I think you need to know that, and we felt that we should formalize that so that the board and in this visioning process, you understand that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So are you planning future public art installations in the village at specific sites?
I believe in our program, you shall see that there are projected places, maps, where public art could be placed. At this point, we don't have anything specific in mind, but we certainly are investigating things, and if we would find something that we thought was interesting, we might ask the community if they were interested in that. But to tell you the truth, what's happened in the past, like the Plenza, an anonymous donor gave that, and there was a whole committee that met in 2007, and that was the beginning of the Public Art Committee. So yes, we would like to do more in the future, but at this point we don't have an immediate something that we've determined.
Other questions? Clarification questions on what is listed in the initiative.
The replacing of the lights on the two sculptures, do you want to do that next year?
Yes, that was one of the things that we've got there.
So, and the light on the Plenza, what is wrong with the light, or how is it not working properly?
It's really hard to access, and in the past, there's been a very small person that has gotten in there. Change the light, and it goes out too rapidly, so we need better lighting in there.
The design of it is such that it allows water and insects
Yep.
into it too easily, and that tends to short out the.
Give a Shorewood elf, I'm hearing you.
So I guess my question is, do we need to prioritize that if the funds are coming from the Shore Foundation? I just want to make sure we don't we pick it and there's really not a role for us. Is it more just for awareness, or is there a role that you're asking for us to play?
Well, I would say in the packet of information that you got, there's a 3 or 4 page maintenance policy. And that maintenance policy addresses, as Diane pointed out, the inventory we did of about 75 pieces of art that are in the public buildings and schools. They're taken aside and saying, they're existing, the principals take care of that art. But then, as Diane said, she specifically mentioned 3 pieces of art, the towel, the plants, and the ghost train. And that policy addresses those and then goes into the future. And then that policy, in tandem with our comprehensive public art document, inclusive of the map Diane referred to, lays out all the various situations and scenarios. Now, you can only imagine, because it is art, that there are a lot of extenuating circumstances and things. And just one note there, and again, as Diane referred to, that we were so fortunate to have the anonymous donor who donated almost $400,000 for the Plenza. That happens in art. You know, another family may be very generous and donate $50,000 or $150,000, like we had with the Ghost Train. That got us well on the way to meeting our goal of 90% of the funds in 90 days. So
Can I just ask again? So in that plan, I did read it, the proposal, but I was under the assumption from reading it that there was a role the village was being asked to play in taking over some maintenance. Is that correct?
Well, I think in reality, Leanne and the DPW has been doing a little bit. But I think you need to know that maintenance does have, it has to be done. It's a policy. It's a policy, and we will work to get the funds to do it. But it might not, I don't know what will happen in the future, is what I'm saying. We've been going for 10 years. And so, well, actually, 10 years.
Is there a clarifying question, Trustee Warren?
So I guess is the question that you have a policy in place and you would look for the funds, but then the policy would look, we kind of backstopping that? Is that kind of where we're going? I'm just trying to pinpoint what the ask is.
I would say the policy acknowledges that art as a commodity is different from other things. And it lays out the situations in which art needs to be maintained, and it distinguishes between our inventory of 75 pieces of art in buildings and at schools, like the painting on wood there, and the 3 major pieces that are part of our plan that we also have mapped out. And it says kind of what happens when. And it's really important with something that, you know, is sort of intangible and ambiguous to have a policy. And then as Diane pointed out, the relationship between the Shorewood Foundation and what they do is really important to know. And it does say with ownership comes responsibility. So these pieces of art are then owned by the village and maintained just like your car or your house or whatever. Thank you.
So,
That makes sense.
we're at time. Is there one note of clarification?
Can we get the name? I don't think I received the maintenance plan, what you referred to.
You didn't?
I don't
Okay.
think I have one.
If they were submitted, we can,
You'll
I'm sure
take
they
care
get
of it.
there.
Diane will take
But
care
is
of it.
there a parking lot item we want to note to make sure it's not lost in regards to public art?
I think you clarified, they're looking for the village in this initiative to take over the main 3 art projects as our own. Trustee Aminta?
No, we're just, that's not what we're doing. We're saying, understand what art is, and by understanding what art is, understand that it gets maintained according to best practices. We gave you a best practice, and that's what it is. And we also gave you, because our plan is the composite of plans of about 30 municipalities in the United States that have phenomenal art plans. Our plan is like that. It is a best practice document.
So we need to move on. We can come back if we have time.
Trustee Aminta?
I would just ask, because I know when we accepted whatever the ghost train, that this issue is specifically addressed, and I remember Trustee Maher asking some specific questions about the village's responsibility for the continuation of the ghost train. So I would just ask that we have the materials that we passed when we adopted the ghost train added.
We pass it to Tyler. It's a binder, it's a software program, it's a guarantee on lights.
I just want the actual agreement that the village signed when the ghost train happened.
I understand what you're asking. I think it's a good thing that it should be there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, that's okay. This is good. The last item in our 10-block period, and we're actually going right on track, which is great as far as time goes. Marketing and communications.
What number is that?
It was, and in your, if you looked at the spreadsheet with summaries, it was highlighted in red as informational only. This wasn't necessarily a thing that we would be asked to prioritize because they do report to a different board. But there is staff time accounted for, which is important to note. So as we look at prioritization, I think that's just important to know that staff time is impacted. So questions,
It's not just staff time, we talked about this in the beginning of the structure of meeting. and,
Yep.
Marketing was pulled up into the packet because they would need money. And so just like every other committee, if there's initiative going forward in that marketing group, even though there's more than just us, our money, they have to come and ask the board for money and so on. And so it was very similar to all the rest of the committees in that sense.
thank you.
Do we have write-ups or just a summary?
Just a summary.
I don't think write-ups were submitted.
I didn't do
correct, Tyler?
write-ups for this one, so, because originally this was just gonna be informational, but I did some extended summaries in the annual report to at least try to give you a general synopsis.
Is it those, Tyler, is it the pages in the annual report?
Yeah, page 2 in the annual report.
And is that what you're proposing?
Yeah, those are the 7 initiatives that the advisory committee
Okay, so second.
is proposing, correct?
questions for marketing and communications.
Can I tell you that we in the audience do not know what you're talking about? It's not on the agenda that we have. We don't see it listed as marketing and parking under A through P, and I'm very confused. I'm speaking for myself, but given my friends, people around me, we're not sure what you're talking about.
Sir, could you help with documentation?
It's not in the packet. It's not on the agenda.
Nothing included to the amended agenda for tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
For the 18th, you mean, the agenda comes out tomorrow, for the 18th. Okay.
Thank you. Is Gina here?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so Tyler, you can answer.
I would answer, yeah, but I'll be